Hi everyone, welcome to Revelations. So we're in Nehemiah 2, and today's study was on just how was Nehemiah even qualified to rebuild the wall for Israel. And I hope you gained some insights out of that on who God uses and what qualifications he picks versus what we would say today would qualify somebody that would be able to do what he did, as we will find out later in the book of Nehemiah. So that's that. But we're going to talk about bullies today because we are introduced to 3 bullies that we will see more of in the chapters to come. And so it helps to understand kind of the underlying hurts that these men were harboring, just because their ancestral history. We don't know much more about them. I'm sure there's probably other things. Bullies in general are people that are hurting, and they handle that hurt by acting out against others. And it's not the right way to do it, but it happens a lot. And we see it today. Just people scrambling and trying to get the upper hand on a situation they don't know how to deal with. So who are these 3 men? Well, in chapter 2, verse 10, we are introduced to the first 2, and it's Sanballat, the Horonite. Okay, so Horonites were inhabitants of Coronite. Okay, I did a lot of research on this. So the Coronites were descendants of Esau, who was Jacob's twin brother. So Jacob was the head, or later named Israel. So here, this great divide, and they were said to have inhabited the area, I'll write this down, of, anyways, I'll get back to that in a second. So, but they kind of lived in this area, like right here, just south of Israel. And because they were pushed out when Israel was in its heyday. And so that's a little bit about who the Horonites are and why they had kind of issues with Jerusalem coming back and being rebuilt. So, and then we meet Tobiah the Ammonite. So who are the Ammonites? The Ammonites are the descendants of Lot. So Lot was the nephew of Abraham. And that's kind of a weird and strange story about how Lot had descendants. You need to go back to Genesis for that. But anyways, they too had some sort of connection to receiving God's blessing, yet missed out on it. So here are 2 people groups that were so very close to being ones that could have been incorporated in more to God's chosen people, and they chose a different way. And so these nations have been feuding since then. And then later on in the chapter, in verse 19, I believe. I'm sorry, I'm kind of all over the place this morning. We meet Geshem, the Arab. So specifically, the Arab or Arabian at that time, they were the people of Babylon. And you have to understand, when we look at Old Testament history, it's hard to decipher who was in charge when, because the Babylonians actually came in and conquered Israel. But this is 100 years after the Babylonians lost their power, and it was the Medo-Persians were now ruling. So here's the Babylonians going, yeah, now we're stuck under this rule, and so all 3 of these men came from ancestral histories that didn't look so kindly on either the current ruler, who Nehemiah had been sent by, or the people that Nehemiah was representing. And when he got to the end, he basically said, you know what? they accused him and they said, "You're rebelling against the king. You're doing this." They probably had a lot of other things they told him that he was doing. And his response to them was, should be our response. You know what? God will give us success. And if you don't do anything with this, he says, you have no portion, no right, or no memorial in what we're doing. It's your choice. But their choice was to choose to oppose him. So I hope that brings a little bit of more of understanding of what's going on and why these men were so against what Nehemiah was doing. They had some real big underlying hurts that were going on in their nations. It wasn't just them personally having a vendetta against Nehemiah coming in. It was much more. So it gives us good perspective on how to handle issues with people groups that maybe we don't have the best understanding of, or who look at us in opposition. But just say, you know what? God is on my side. I will do what God says. It doesn't mean that I will not like you, that I will not try my hardest to be God's beacon of light around you. But I also can't give in to false accusations against me and against my God. So have an awesome day, everybody, and I will see you again tomorrow on Daily Revelations. Bye.